Hi, Lincoln Fillmore coming to you again from the state capitol. It's a Friday, and it's the Friday before Valentine's Day and a holiday weekend, so it's going to be just a fantastic day. I'm happy to report to you about what's happened in the legislature this week. So I'll hit on a couple of bills that I've been working on, as well as some things that I'm hearing from you. And one thing that we hear a lot is talked about in the media, I've gotten some emails from you, is just about the sheer number of bills this year. And I track this every day as the Rules Committee chair because the more bills are introduced, I'm seeing more of them come to the Senate. And of course, I read every one of them as they are. And so, this year it's obvious we're running a lot more bills and have requested a lot more bills. But perhaps some good news for some of you is that we are passing fewer bills than we ever have. So the fact that there are a bunch on the front end doesn't necessarily mean that there are a bunch on the back end, but it does mean that curating those could be a little bit hard. It does increase the amount of time it takes, to read every bill and make sure we're following them properly and following the changes that happen from time to time. I do want to take a minute to talk to you about something that we changed in the legislature this year to address this issue. And it's a rules change that I sponsored with Representative Jim Dunnigan in the House. So this resolution changes an important rule. Legislators have a limited number of bills that we can prioritize or for drafting, kind of get in front of the line. But legislative committees have had an unlimited number. So we put the same limit on committees that we have as senators. So there's a finite number of bills that they can prioritize in skipping the line. And we hope that that will cause committees to be a little bit more thoughtful about how they're approaching this and in the number of bills that they request and they open, so that we can have a little bit more time to focus on those that come forward. And that passed today in the Senate. I think it still has one more vote in the House, but I imagine that will pass. So the number of bills is not always necessarily a bad thing, and I just want to talk to you briefly about it, why in Utah we have a single subject rule. A lot of states have run a fewer number of bills, but a lot more subjects per bill, where Utah's single subject rule means that we only have one subject per bill. And that helps protect against bad policy, because big omnibus bills that do a lot of different things sometimes pass bad policies in order to get the good policy. We avoid that in Utah by ensuring that we're just voting on the single subject per bill, but that does lead to greater bills. But by way of example, let me tell you about a company called Nursa, and you might see them. They have a building on about 53rd South. Ben Chapman, who's a constituent in South Jordan, he works for Nursa, and they approached me last year to run a bill to change the state law to allow them to implement their business model. And their business model is it's like an app, so it's something like Uber, but instead of requesting a ride, this is hospitals using an app to request nurses to come and fill in shifts for some of their staff that are on vacation or that have called in sick. So we were able to change state law to allow this to happen, but as it was implemented, it was found that it was drafted a bit too broadly. So this year I ran another bill just to narrow that so that it focused on where we were. Both of those bills passed with broad support, because sometimes we'll pass something and then you find as it's implemented, it needs a little bit of a tweak. So I was able to do that this year, and that bill has passed the Senate on second reading and is making its way over to the House. I want to talk about another bill I'm working on this year. This is Senate Bill 165, and it's called Economic Mobility Initiative. It's kind of an interesting name because Utah already has such great economic mobility. We are the #1 state in the country for people starting at a low income and then moving up in their life to be a high income earner. And that's something that Utah should be justly proud of. But this bill really focuses on that issue to try to get it so that more people are able to make their way out of poverty through economic mobility. And we do that by consolidating government programs, coordinating with them, so that the efforts that we're making are concentrated on supporting family success. Data shows that when children grow up, regardless of their own family situation, if they grow up in a neighborhood and a community where families are strong, those children are much more likely to make their way out of poverty, even if they're in a situation that in another state you'd think would create intergenerational poverty. I'm really proud of that in Utah, and I'm wanting to focus on that so that we can make more growth in that area. And finally, I want to talk to you about the people who've come up to visit us here at the Capitol today, or this week. So today was one of my favorite days of the legislative session because it was my annual constituent lunch. So we had about 20 constituents come up, enjoy lunch with us. We had a good policy discussion about a lot of issues that are floating around the Capitol. And I just really love the ability to reconnect with those that I represent while I'm here up during the session. Other groups that came to visit today were students from the Schools for the Deaf and Blind I was able to go and talk to. We had people up here today from different school groups. I was pleased to meet with them. And one group I want to highlight was the winners of the state art competition. This is done in partnership with the Springville Art Museum. And so I was able to meet two fantastic artists that are in our district. One of those is Madison Lundquist, who had just a beautiful sculpture of like a child with wings reaching for the sky that I just loved. And Madison, if you're watching, I'd be interested in buying that sculpture if you're interested in selling. And I also want to highlight Sadie Henderson from Harriman High School, who was the winner of the state art competition, just getting the top prize among hundreds of other high school artists who competed. Hers was just a beautiful, kind of a Norman Rockwell-esque household slice of life picture that takes place during the Great Depression with a dad reading the newspaper and seeing the bad news with a child in there. It's just a really a deeply touching drawings. If you guys get a chance to go up to the Capitol, you'll be able to see her artwork as well as the others from the statewide competition. They'll be displayed in the Capitol later this session. And I just invite you to come up. If you'd like to come and sit with me on the Senate floor to see the process work, just get in touch with my intern or me. Our contact information is on the screen. We'd just love to have you up here to talk about what's on your mind and let you see the process in action. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy your extra day off, and I'll talk to you next week.